The wind moved softly across the dead plains of Narration, brushing against the old stone structures, like a breath from a long-forgotten past. Most of the galaxy believed the planet was uninhabitable, just another graveyard world left behind by a fallen civilization. But Elias Marrin, a human xeno-archaeologist, with more curiosity than caution, saw something else. He stood at the center of what looked like a vast temple ruin, surrounded by jagged stone spires and half-buried statues. His dark brown eyes scanned the symbols carved into the crumbling walls. He wasn't tall or muscular, but there was a quiet strength to him, the kind that came from never giving up. Dirt streaked his cheeks, and his breath came out in clouds, even under the weak orange sun. "This place feels alive," Elias whispered to himself, "like it's waiting." His only companion, a floating AI drone named Zira, hovered nearby. "Your readings show no life signs, Elias. Are you certain this is the site you were looking for?" "I'm not certain of anything," Elias replied, "but every alien culture that came here recorded the same thing. They tried to wake something and failed." The ruins had been explored for hundreds of years by dozens of species. The Varnak tried song frequencies. The Aurelians brought psychic priests. Even the Galactic Union's engineers had used deep resonance pulses. Nothing worked. But Elias had a theory. Not based on machines, not on power, on language, on emotion, on a name. He moved deeper into the temple. The walls seemed to lean inward the further he went, and the air grew colder. At the end of the passage, he found a colossal stone face carved into the mountain itself. Its eyes were shut, and its mouth looked like it hadn't moved in 1,000 years. Zara beeped a warning. "Elias, energy levels are spiking below. I don't recommend going closer." "Just one more step," he said, stepping forward. The ground rumbled beneath him. The air thickened like pressure before a storm. Elias pulled out a small leather notebook, its pages worn. His grandfather had left it behind, filled with strange symbols collected during old expeditions. One phrase stood out, scribbled over and over again: "Do not speak the name." But Elias believed the warning was the key. He looked up at the stone face and, in a steady voice, whispered the word, "Ravelek." The change was instant. The mountain trembled violently. A deep hum rolled through the ground, sending dust and pebbles skittering in all directions. The eyes of the stone face began to glow a deep, bright blue. The mouth opened slightly, releasing a warm, ancient breath of air, as if the planet itself had just exhaled. Zara spun wildly. "Elias, you triggered something massive. Seismic readings. RAR, off the charts. This isn't a temple. It's a tumor, a vault." "I know," Elias said, stepping back. But he didn't feel fear. He felt recognition, as if something had been waiting, just for him. The ground split behind him, revealing a spiral staircase of glowing crystal, descending into darkness. A gust of heat and golden light rose from below, illuminating symbols on the walls that began to shift and change. To Elias's presence, a voice echoed through the temple, deep and resonant. It wasn't mechanical, nor entirely alien. It was layered, ancient, and somehow human. "You have spoken the name. You are of the line. You have awakened the guardian." Zer blinked red. "There's no translator active." "That voice, Elias? It's speaking directly into your mind." Elias knelt at the top of the staircase, placing one hand on the glowing stone. He felt warmth flood his fingers, then his chest, then his thoughts. Images raced through his mind, starscapes, battles, ancient humans standing against shadows that devoured whole systems. "We were here before," Elias murmured. "Humans. We were the first to wake the stars. And now," a deep rumble interrupted him as the massive stone face cracked open fully, revealing a figure embedded in crystal far below. It was humanoid in shape, but massive, twice the size of any human. Armor fused with stone, and glowing veins of light wrapped around its form. Its chest pulsed with the same blue energy. The Guardian, Zara whispered, her voice now subdued. It's real. Not just real, Elias said, standing tall. It was waiting for us. For humans. For this moment. The Guardian's eyes blinked open. Your world is in danger once more. The darkness rises. I have waited long enough. And as the last word echoed through the mountain, Elias knew he hadn't just found a myth. He had awakened a force that could change the fate of the entire galaxy. He just didn't know what it would cost. The light from the Guardian's eyes poured across the temple chamber, like twin beacons, sweeping over Elias with a force that made his knees buckle. He caught himself on the edge of the crystal staircase, his breath ragged. The glow wasn't just light, it carried weight, like emotion condensed into energy. It wrapped around him, searching, studying. Zara hovered closer. Elias, you need to fall back. This Guardian, it's scanning your entire nervous system. No, Elias whispered, and I think I'm passing the test. Below, the crystal shell that held the Guardian began to crack. Shards floated outward, suspended in the air like frozen raindrops. The humanoid figure inside remained still, its blue-lit armor humming with quiet power. Then its chest rose slowly, deliberately, as it took its first breath in millennia. Human, you carry the bloodline. You spoke the name. Why have you come? The voice bypassed the air entirely, vibrating through Elias's bones. He steadied himself and answered with as much calm as he could gather. I came looking for answers. For truth. Everyone else failed. To wake you. But I think I was meant to. A pause. The floating shards of crystal spun faster around the Guardian, forming strange runes in the air. The light in its eyes dimmed slightly, then flared brighter. The galaxy forgets. The stars shift. But some truths remain. I am Solari, shield of the line, guardian of the core. The void is stirring again. Are your kind ready? Elias blinked. The void. What is that? A place, a species, a hunger, an unmaking. The opposite of what you are. It comes in cycles. It consumes civilizations and leaves nothing. Your ancestors fought it with fire and soul. You stand alone. He didn't understand everything, but he understood enough. This was bigger than ruins and ancient languages. It was about survival, about history repeating. Then teach me, Elias said. Show me what we've forgotten. For the first time, the Guardian moved. One hand, plated in layered stone and glowing threads of energy, reached out and placed itself against the wall beside the crystal staircase. The entire chamber trembled. Patterns of light bloomed across the floor and walls, forming a map of the galaxy, millions of stars, each twinkling with life. Elias gasped. This isn't a temple. It's a command station. Zara scanned rapidly. I'm detecting structures on nearly every major galactic route, stations, weapons, archives, all buried like this one. It's a defense network. The last stand of the first flame, Solari said. Hidden from the void, until it was time. Until the line was reborn. Until a voice called the name. Elias stepped toward the map. His hand hovered above a glowing point that pulsed with familiar energy. This system, Earth, you're saying we're not the beginning. We're the return. Yes. Your people were scattered when the first war ended. The heart of humanity was hidden. We waited for your echo to reach us. The Guardian turned its gaze fully onto Elias. This time, the energy didn't just study him, it linked to him. He felt it like a rush of wind through every nerve in his body. 1,000 voices whispered in unison. Memories, wars, triumphs. A great love once shared between human and alien allies. A civilization that didn't fall, but sacrificed itself to build something greater. Zara's voice cracked. Elias, your DNA markers just changed. You're syncing with it. The Guardian's words returned. Your blood remembers. The knowledge lives in you, but it must be tested. The floor beneath Elias began to descend, forming an elevator of light and crystal. Solari moved with it, now standing tall and alive. Beside him, the chamber above vanished into shadow. Elias steadied his breath. Where are we going? To prove your heart. Strength alone cannot awaken the others. Each guardian needs more than power. It needs purpose. As they dropped into the deeper levels of the facility, walls carved in languages older than any archive flashed by. The weight of humanity's lost greatness surrounded Elias, and with it, a new fear. Not that he wasn't ready, but that the galaxy wasn't. Because if Solari was right, then the worst hadn't come yet, and this time, there might be no second chance. The platform of light slowed as it reached the deepest part of the facility. The walls opened into a vast chamber, unlike anything Elias had seen before. Smooth metal, pulsing with energy, alive with quiet motion. Holographic echoes drifted through the air, humans and other beings walking side by side, coordinating across ancient battlefields, their voices silent, their stories half lost in time. Solari stepped forward, the ground responding to his movements with quiet vibrations. This place was the core of the old alliance. Here we stored what we could not let die: truth, weapons, memory. Elias followed, his heart pounding. Why hide it all? Because the last time the void came, knowledge was our curse. It fed on progress, on certainty. We made the choice to forget. Now, we must remember. Suddenly, a section of the chamber darkened. A tear formed in the middle of the air itself. No seams, no structure, just absence. Elias stared, feeling his chest tighten. What is that? He asked. A shadow of the void, a scar, a memory it left behind. Zara's voice cut in, glitching slightly. I can't read this area, Elias. It's like my sensors don't exist there. Solari reached out. The edge of his armored hand touched the darkness and the room groaned. Images exploded in Elias's mind. 1,000 civilizations blinked out like candle flames. Starships twisted into themselves. Planets devoured in silence. The void wasn't a species. It wasn't even alive. It was subtraction. This is what the galaxy will face again, Solari said, his voice quiet now. And you, Elias Marrin, must decide whether to stand alone or reignite the bond that once saved everything. Elias pulled his hand back from the edge of the darkness. But I'm just one man. Solari's gaze burned brighter. So was the first. One human lit the beacon that gathered the stars. One voice, one choice, one moment of defiance. That's all it takes. Elias turned away from the void scar. He felt the weight of history, of forgotten bloodlines, of futures not yet lived. But deep inside him, something stirred. Not fear, not pride, hope. How do I start? He asked. The guardian extended a hand. From its palm rose a small shard of blue crystal glowing, humming with power. Take this, find the others. The network is vast, and time is short. Each guardian slumbers, waiting for proof. Not of strength, of unity. The void cannot be defeated by force, only by connection. Elias took the crystal. The moment his fingers touched it, his mind flooded with location stars, coordinates, buried relics. But woven into it all was something else. A feeling, a presence, someone. Not human, Zara interrupted. New signal detected. Elias swear, not alone anymore. Above the surface, a sleek alien vessel cut through the dust clouds, landing near the ruins. Its markings were unfamiliar, but its energy signature was unmistakable, one of the species that had failed to awaken the Guardian. They're coming, Elias said. Solari stepped beside him. Then let them come. Let them see what a human has done. Let them feel what the void cannot. And then, invite them to stand with you. Elias turned, his jaw set, the crystal gripped in one hand, the Guardian at his side. The stars were stirring. The past had awakened, and the future had begun to move. The wind above the surface had shifted. Zara reported changes in atmospheric pressure and magnetic flow, signs that the Guardians' awakening had disturbed more than just the ground beneath their feet. Something in the planet's rhythm had changed, and something had answered. The sleek vessel touched down just beyond the temple ruins, its metallic skin catching the faint orange sunlight and gleaming like polished obsidian. It bore no visible weapons, no insignias, Elias recognized. But the doors opened without hesitation. From the ship stepped a lone figure, tall, silver-skinned, wrapped in a robe that shimmered with woven stars. Her eyes glowed faintly lavender, and her movements were deliberate, calm. She paused as her gaze met Elias's. Something passed between them, recognition, but not of the face of the moment. Zira hovered cautiously. "Elias, I suggest keeping your distance. Unknown species. Energy levels around her are unusual." "I know," Elias said quietly, "but I think she felt the same thing I did." The figure stepped forward, and as she did, the blue crystal Elias held began to pulse gently at first, then stronger. The alien stopped and stared at it, then placed a hand to her chest. Her voice, when it came, was musical and soft. I heard its song. I heard it in my dreams before I arrived. That crystal, it called to me. Solari moved beside Elias, towering over both of them. His armor made no sound, but his presence dominated the space. "She is touched by resonance, rare, not of the line but close." "Let her speak." Elias nodded, stepping closer. "I'm Elias, human." The alien inclined her head. "I am Lee Ray, of the Archaethery. My people tried for centuries to awaken the Guardian. We failed. But this morning, I awoke knowing exactly where to go, as if someone had already lit the path." She extended her hand toward the crystal, not touching it, just close enough to feel its warmth. The shard glowed brighter. Zara's voice cracked through the moment. "That shouldn't be possible. The resonance is matching. It's syncing to both of you." Elias looked to Solari. "What does this mean?" The Guardian answered slowly. "It means the bonds that once saved the galaxy are forming again. This is what the void fears: connection, that which it cannot consume." Ray blinked. "Then, I was meant to find this place, not as a conqueror, but as a witness. Maybe more." The ground beneath them trembled again, not from danger, but from activation. The chamber below responded to their shared resonance. A new set of stairs unfolded from the ruins, glowing with energy that hummed with the same tone as the crystal. Elias looked at her. "There's more beneath. I think we're supposed to go together." Without a word, Ray nodded. They descended side by side, Zara hovering above Solari, walking behind. As they moved deeper, the architecture shifted, less human, more alien, as if this part of the facility had been built not just by humans, but with others. The walls told stories through glowing carvings, humans and alien species standing side by side, battling horrors made of smoke and shadow. Hands clasped, symbols merged, no species alone. Every victory was shared. They reached a new chamber, a wide circular platform with a tall pedestal in the center. The moment Elias stepped close, the crystal in his hand rose into the air and floated to the pedestal. Clicking into place with a hum, a hologram burst into life. A human woman in ancient armor stood tall, her eyes sharp, her voice echoing through the chamber. The heart of unity must be formed anew. A human must lead, but never alone. The bond must be true. The resonance must match. One from Earth, one from the stars, together or not at all. The hologram faded. Ray turned to Elias. They didn't leave behind just weapons. They left trials. Trials for what? Elias asked. To see if we can trust each other again, she said softly. To see if we're ready to fight. As one, Solari nodded once. Then let the trial begin. If the bond holds, the next Guardian will awaken, and the war can be remembered not as the end, but as the beginning. The pedestal pulsed once more, and then the floor beneath it began to shift. Runes flared to life, spreading out in a circle that encased Elias and Lyrae in a dome of soft blue light. Zara backed off instinctively, scanning for danger but finding none, only a thick curtain of resonance energy that no sensor could pierce. Solari remained outside the dome. His voice, still clear, rumbled through the energy barrier. The trial of light and shadow was designed to test not skill, but intent. You will not face enemies. You will face truth, and only together can you pass. Elias exchanged a glance with Lyrae. If we pass, he said, voice low, the next guardian awakens. She nodded, eyes locked on the swirling light around them. And if we fail? The dome snapped shut, and the world changed. The chamber faded into blackness, and a new landscape unfolded around them, stars above, cracked glass beneath. Endless reflections of themselves stretched into the void, twisted in form and emotion. One Elias stood tall with a crown of fire, another wept with hands soaked in blood. One Lyrae glowed like a goddess, another stood cloaked in ash. Elias took a step forward, and the surface rippled beneath his boots. This isn't real. No, Lyrae whispered. But the feelings are. From the darkness, a voice emerged, not Solaris, but something colder. Show us your fear. Show us your failures. Show us the moments you would erase. Before Elias could answer, a scene formed between the glass. He saw himself, younger, shouting at his sister before leaving Earth for good. Her tear-streaked face blurred, but the pain in her eyes was sharp. He had chased answers and forgotten love. Then Lyrae's memory took shape, her standing before the Archaethery Council, arguing for peace with a species they now warred against. They had laughed at her, called her broken for dreaming of alliances. She had turned away from her own kind to follow a dream no one else believed in. Elias's jaw clenched. What is this supposed to prove? That we've made mistakes? Everyone has. No, the voice returned, now circling them. This proves you still carry them, that you hide them, that you cannot trust while you still fear being seen. The shadows around them took form, copies of themselves, filled with anger, shame, doubt. Elias's darker self stepped forward, mocking. You'll let her down, like you let everyone else down. You chase meaning because you're afraid to be still. Lyrae's shadow hissed at her. He'll leave you. Humans always do. They use connection to feel important. Then they disappear. Elias turned to Lyrae. This isn't real. This isn't who we are. But she didn't answer at first. Her lavender eyes were locked on her shadow's face, on the pain it mirrored. Too well then, slowly, she reached for Elias's hand. We can't erase our past, she said, but we can share the burden. He clasped her hand, strong and sure. You're not alone. Their shadows howled, but began to crack. Light burst from their joined hands, raw and radiant. The broken glass beneath them melted into stars, and the reflections faded. The voice returned, but now it had changed. No longer cold, now curious. You did not run. You did not fight each other. You trusted. You chose light. The stars swirled around them, forming a new figure. Second guardian, different from Larry, sleeker, more refined, her form curved and radiant with silver light. I am Veil's sentinel of harmony. You have passed. You have rekindled what was lost. Lyrae stepped forward, awed. Then, we're ready. Velzis extended her arms. No, but you are willing. And that is enough to begin. The dome of light collapsed, returning them to the crystal chamber. Zara whirled around them excitedly. Trial completed. Guardian awakened. Alliance recognized. Solari watched them silently. Then he bowed his head slightly to Veil's. It begins again. The lights return. The void will feel us rise. Elias looked at Lyrae, his heart pounding, the crystal warm again in his palm. How many more guardians? He asked. Veil's turned her gaze outward. through the chamber walls, toward the stars. 5 remain, but they will not come to you. You must find them, and others, like her, like you, or the darkness will win again. And somewhere in the deep reaches of space, something vast and hungry stirred. The stars above Narration had shifted from orbit. Zara's long-range sensors revealed a troubling pattern. 5 distinct points of stellar activity across the galaxy had begun to behave abnormally. They pulsed in rhythm, not with solar patterns, but with something deeper, older, as if responding to the reawakening of Valises and Solari. Elias stood at the command deck of Loray's ship, now adapted to house the 2 Guardians. The vessel hummed with strange energy. It no longer flew through space, it felt like it moved through memory. The crystal from the trial glowed beside him, connected now to both his heartbeat and Liray's. Liray entered quietly, her steps as fluid as her thoughts. Zara's scans show all 5 signals are located on dead systems, formerly inhabited, now void of life. Void? Elias asked, brow furrowing. You think the enemy's already been there? Not just been there, Liray said, her voice hushed. I think it's still there. Behind them, Solari stepped forward, his armor reflecting a fading orange light from the dying sun of Narration. The void leaves echoes, places where time forgets. It corrupts not through violence, but through silence. One of those signals may be the source, or worse, the door. Valises stood beside him now, the glow of her silver energy dancing like wind over water. And yet the signal has changed. It was static for centuries. The reawakening of 1 Guardian is not enough to stir it. 2, perhaps, but 5. That would challenge its sleep. Elias sat back, his mind racing. If we bring the other Guardians online, we can draw it out, force it into the open. Solari nodded slowly. A dangerous strategy, but one with merit. The Guardians were never built to destroy the void. They were made to hold the line, to give the galaxy time, to choose unity over chaos. Zara interrupted, her voice now lower, almost reverent. Elias, one of the 5 systems, just shifted. The stars blinked. He turned. What does that mean? The stars don't blink, Liray said, before Zara could answer. Unless something passes in front of them. Something massive. The room fell silent. Elias felt the crystal pulse in his hand again, and this time, a vision struck hard and fast. He stood in the center of a black system. No light, no planets, no warmth. Just a void that breathed. He saw fleets drifting lifeless, their hulls hollowed out. He saw whispers crawling over their metal shadows with no faces. He saw a Guardian, dormant, consumed in silence. The image shifted again to himself and Liray, floating above a silver world covered in ash. They reached for one another as a shape far beyond comprehension began to pull at the stars. Elias gasped, stumbling back into the command chair. Liray caught him. Another vision. He nodded. It's worse than I thought. It's not waiting. It's feeding already. Solari stepped forward. Then you must move faster. The 3rd Guardian lies beneath the moon of Orelus, buried beneath a sea of silver. But the bond to awaken it will require more than courage. You must bring others with you. You are no longer enough. Valises raised a hand. I will call, not with words but with resonance. The crystal you carry will begin to sing, and those who can hear it will come. Not all will be worthy. Some will arrive with fear in their hearts, others with ambition. But you must guide them, unite them. That is your true trial. Liray looked to Elias. Are you ready to lead them? He took a breath, steadying his heartbeat to match the crystal's hum. I don't think I was ever supposed to be a leader. But maybe that's why I should be. The ship turned toward the edge of known space, toward Orelus, toward the 3rd Guardian, as stars blinked out in the distance. Elias whispered what had become his truth. We can't outrun the dark, but maybe we can outshine it. And behind them, for the first time in an age, 3 stars burned brighter than the rest. Aurelis shimmered in the void like a pearl dipped in frostets. Silver oceans frozen under a thin veil of atmosphere, its skies heavy with dust. Once a moon of splendor, it was now lifeless, orbiting a dead planet in the far corner of forgotten space. But Elias Marrin, Ray of the Archaeology, and the 2 awakened guardians knew something else slept beneath its stillness. As their ship descended, the hull began to vibrate not from turbulence, but from resonance. The crystal in Elias's palm pulsed with increasing rhythm, now warm enough to sting veils as stood beside him on the bridge. It hears us, but this guardian is different. Its design was experimental, bonded not to 2 but too many. It requires harmony, or it will not rise. Elias turned toward the viewing screen. The surface of Aurelis was etched with massive geometric patterns, visible only from above symbols older than language. Circuits for minds. Zara's voice hummed over. The ships comes. Multiple ships inbound. Elias. No transponder codes. No weapons deployed. Ray leaned forward. They heard the call. One by one, ships of all shapes and origins landed on Aurelis's barren plains. Elias and Ray watched as their passengers emerged an insectoid from the Vitari hive, a scaled warrior of the Gorthan clans, a delicate thinker from the Mindsia collective, even a rogue Terran captain with a smirk, too confident for a war this serious. They all gathered before the frozen lake where the crystal now led them. Elias stepped forward. You felt something. That's why you're here. Not because of governments or orders. Because something in you answered the call. The Gorthan, armored and scarred, tilted her horned head. I don't trust humans, but I trust what I felt. I dreamed of this place before I ever saw it. The Vitari hissed gently. We came. We do not know why, but we obeyed the hum. Vale raised her hand, and the lake cracked. Light spilled through, blue and radiant. Beneath the ice lay a guardian, unlike the others, its body not a single form but hundreds of linked shapes, curled around one another like a nest. This is the fragmented heart. It cannot awaken to one voice. It needs unity, harmony, not just between 2, but among all. Solari stepped forward from the edge of the group. Step forward, those who would try. Link your energy. Speak not with words, but with will. Elias looked at Ray. She nodded. He held out the crystal, and one by one, the others placed their hands upon it. There were no speeches, no arguments, just a moment of shared silence, and then a sound, a note that wasn't a sound at all, but a feeling, warmth, memory, purpose. The ground trembled. Beneath the ice, Aurelis moved. Its segments unfolded like petals, revealing a vast core of shifting light. The being that emerged was not a giant of strength like Solari, nor of grace like Vales's. It was something else, something woven from the spirit of all who had come. Its voice was many voices, male, female, neither, both. You chose unity. You chose light. You remember. We rise. And all around them, the ice exploded outward, not in violence, but in release. Aurelis stood tall now, its limbs shifting and changing, its body adapting to the energies around it. The other species stepped back in awe, but Elias stepped forward. We're not done. The void is stirring. We saw stars, blink entire systems going silent. Vales's and Solari exchanged a glance. Aurelis answered first. Then it is time. The fleet of flame lies dormant in the empty spiral. We were meant to awaken it together. All of us. Not as conquerors but as guardians. A map formed in the sky above them, stars, lighting into trails, connecting across the galaxy. A final line formed at the edge of the known universe. A wound in the stars pulsed faintly there, waiting. Solari's voice dropped. That is where it will begin or end. Elias looked at Ray. then at those gathered creatures from distant worlds who had once feared each other, distrusted each other, hunted each other, now standing as one. "This is how we win," he said. "Not with weapons, with trust." Ray smiled softly. "With love." He reached for her hand, and as their fingers touched, the three guardians knelt in unison. The stars that do not blink now shine again. Above them, the sky was no longer empty. It was watching, and it was ready. The end.